Determining the quality of a head coach can be a tricky thing. Phil Jackson has something like 20,000 wins and 75 NBA championships, but has only once been named the NBA's Coach of the Year, and he had to set a single-season record for wins in order to do so. Luminaries such as Brian Daboll, Matt Nagy, Jason Garrett, and Dick Duran have won the NFL Coach of the Year. Kevin Stefanski and Ron Rivera have won it twice. Only 7 of the 59 head coaches during the Super Bowl era have ever won the award in the same season they won the Super Bowl. But we digress. This video isn't about the Coach of the Year award, because that is a completely subjective exercise that is generally an in-the-moment evaluation. We're here today to rank the 25 greatest head coaches of the Super Bowl era, and we're gonna do it objectively. How? By using C-Score, this channel's metric for evaluating every single NFL team during the Super Bowl era, taking into account so many other factors beyond a team's record. For a deeper explanation of C-Score, be sure to check out the description of this video. What we're going to be doing is transferring a team's C-Score to its head coach. Is that a perfect correlation? No, probably not. But the head coach is literally the one person who is involved with every single play that takes place on a football field. So if C-Score can ever be pinned to one person, let it be the head coach. All we're going to be doing is taking the total C-Score accumulated by a coach over his career. The higher, the better. Interim stints will not be included, which just left Bruce Arians out. Clearly, a longer tenure is better for making this list. Any coaching stints that began before the 1966 season, the beginning of the Super Bowl era, will not be included. And naturally, anyone who coached exclusively before 1966 will also not be included. That leaves out some pretty big names, of course. Here is a list of 11 Hall of Fame head coaches who are not in this top 25. Some of these guys did coach during the Super Bowl era, of course, but didn't accumulate enough C-Score to get ranked. There are 5 coaches on this list who are still active in the NFL. Because the 2024 season is ongoing as of the making of this video, we will only be including their totals through the end of the 2023 season. I'd like to hear your guesses as to who is going to be ranked on this list and where. Or if you want to wait till the end and let me know where I got it wrong, that'll work as well. Thank you for joining us today, and away we go. We start off at number 25 with a Day 1 AFL coach who made it with his team into the Super Bowl era and beyond the merger. Perhaps most famous for being mic'd up during Super Bowl IV, we have Hank Stram. These 2 listings of Stram as the Kansas City Chiefs head coach is indeed one full stint, just that the years between 1960 and 1965 don't count to his overall C-Score. His stats do include his entire run, and that will be the case for every coach going forward. His AFL titles came in 1962, when the Chiefs were known as the Dallas Texans, 1966, when the Chiefs lost Super Bowl I, and 1969, where the Chiefs played the final game under the AFL banner and upset the Minnesota Vikings to win Super Bowl IV. That 69 season brought home his best C-Score at 34.657. His worst season was part of that ill-advised run in New Orleans in 1977 at negative 25.07. His total career C-Score was 94.733. We only need to wait until number 24 where we start getting coaches with C-Scores in the triple digits. Known for his displays of emotion and for taking 15 years off from coaching, we bring you Dick Vermeil. Vermeil led the Philadelphia Eagles to Super Bowl XV, a game they were favored to win. Penalties and turnovers did them in though, and they lost to the Oakland Raiders. After 7 seasons, citing burnout, Vermeil retired. It wasn't until 1997 when he was coaxed back onto the sideline by the St. Louis Rams. It wasn't looking so good, that is, until their magical turnaround season in 1999, which resulted in victory over the Tennessee Titans in Super Bowl 34. Another year away was followed by 5 seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs. That 99 season was Vermeil's best with a 33.597 C-score, while his first season in Philly was his worst at minus 23.312. In total, he lands with a C-score of 102.085. Our number 23 entry had a very rough beginning to his head coaching career, resulting in an early season firing and a 5-year wait before he landed another gig. Clearly, he got it all on track eventually. This is Mike Shanahan. Indeed, he only lasted 20 games with the LA Raiders before getting the boot from Al Davis. After a wildly successful run as offensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers, he got another shot with the Denver Broncos, getting to share a division with those same Raiders. He made and won his first Super Bowl in 1997, then pulled off the repeat in 1998. A 4-year stint with the Washington Redskins wasn't so spectacular, but it did produce one playoff appearance. Shanahan's best season was the second of those 2 Super Bowl titles in 1998, with a C-score of 33.676. His worst season was his last, in 2013 with Washington, at negative 23.079. In total, he accumulated a 109.087 C-score. Another former 49ers offensive coordinator is at number 22. In fact, after leaving the 49ers to become the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, he was replaced by Mike Shanahan. Naturally, we're talking about Mike Holmgren. Believe it or not, Holmgren spent more time as head coach of the Seattle Seahawks than he did with the Packers, but his most success came with Green Bay. They won their first NFC championship in franchise history in 1996 before winning Super Bowl 31. They returned to the Super Bowl the next year, but could not complete the repeat. In 2005, Holmgren won his 3rd NFC title and became the second head coach with the opportunity to win the Super Bowl with 2 different franchises. But Super Bowl 40 was not his day. Holmgren's best season was that legendary 96 Packers team with a 45.521 C-score. His final season in Seattle in 2008 was his worst at negative 19.393. In total, he landed a C-score of 119.555. Mike Holmgren was the second, but the first head coach with the opportunity to win a Super Bowl with 2 different franchises is here at number 21. From the New York Giants to the New England Patriots, this is Bill Parcells. It was a 4-year plan for the first 12 seasons of Parcells' coaching tenure, making and winning the Super Bowl in his 4th and 8th season with the Giants, then making it in his 4th season with the Patriots. Stints with the Jets and the Cowboys provided success, but no Super Bowl appearances. He is one of only 2 coaches in this top 25 with both an AFC and an NFC title under his belt. The 1986 New York Giants were Parcells' best, with a C-score of 37.478. 2004 with the Dallas Cowboys was the one to forget, with his career-low C-score of negative 18.753. In all, with 19 seasons on the sidelines, his C-score stands at 122.995. Our number 20 entry was only an NFL head coach for 10 seasons, yet he is on every legitimate shortlist for greatest coach in NFL history. And might I add, as a 49ers fan, I have a deep reverence for this man. This is the one and only Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh took over a terrible San Francisco 49ers team in 1979. Over the previous 3 seasons, they had 9 wins and 4 different head coaches. 1979 was bad too, but only 2 seasons later, they were Super Bowl champions. 3 seasons later, they were Super Bowl champions again. And 4 seasons later, they were Super Bowl champions one more time, and Bill Walsh retired from the NFL. That middle title in 1984 brought Walsh his best C-score with a 41.525. His first season in charge was the worst at negative 20.925. Take away those 2 seasons of rebuilding, and his total C-score is over 165. His final total is still remarkable at 128.545. We've only seen Super Bowl winning head coaches to this point, but at number 19 is a head coach who not only has never won a Super Bowl, he's never appeared in one. Such was the tenure of Chuck Knox. Starting and ending with the Los Angeles Rams, Knox also made a 5-season stop with the Buffalo Bills and a 9-season stop with the Seattle Seahawks, making that his longest tenured stint. That first run with the Rams, however, is known for a whole lot of underachieving. In an era of 14-game seasons, the Rams never lost fewer than 10 games in a season and cleared 20 points in C-score 4 times, yet they never made it to the Super Bowl. That first season in 1973 was Knox's best, with a 34.087 C-score. 20 years later, in 1993, was his worst, at negative 22.626. Knox was great, but he never could reach the top. Yet, he was able to accumulate a C-score of 135.832. We're back to Super Bowl champion head coaches at number 18. This man only coached one team and had to follow up an absolute legend of the game. But he did it, and he did it at a Hall of Fame level. This is the Chin himself, Bill Cowher. When a 4-time Super Bowl champion retires and you have to replace him, expectations will be very high. All Cowher did in 1992 was lead the Pittsburgh Steelers to the number 1 seed in the AFC. It was in his 4th season where the Steelers finally returned to the Super Bowl, only to lose to the Dallas Cowboys. After 10 seasons of consistent contention, the Steelers were finally back, and in Super Bowl 40, they were crowned world champions. Cowher coached one more season before retiring. That 2005 title team was Cowher's best, with a 24.879 C-score. 1998 was the low point at only negative 9.38, giving him a grand total of 144.497. And he was always super fun to watch. Bill Cowher isn't the only head coach on this list to replace the Hall of Famer. Our next entry at number 17 did so as well. In fact, he replaced Bill Cowher, and now ranks just ahead of him. We're talking about Omar Epps' long-lost twin brother, Mike Tomlin. As we stated at the beginning of the video, we're not using the as of now incomplete 2024 season, so Tomlin's tenure is listed through 2023. In just his 2nd season, at only 36 years old, Tomlin was a Super Bowl champion. They were back in the Super Bowl 2 years after that, but fell in that game. Tomlin has famously never had a losing record, and 2024 isn't looking like the year that streak ends. That Super Bowl title in 2008 does rank as his best season, with a 27.548 C-score. His lowest C-score was in 2021, and that was only a negative 5.235. In total, he's just ahead of Bill Cowher with a 148.023, and after all these years, he's still only 52 years old. We're now at number 16, and this entry might shock you. This man is a former New England Patriots head coach, and the 2023 season was his last in the league, at least for now. We are, of course, talking about Pete Carroll. Carroll never got a fair shake in his first 2 stops with the Jets and the Patriots, so all he did was go to the college ranks and build a multiple-time national championship winning powerhouse at USC. He finally got his chance again in the NFL, and he had a highly memorable 14-year run with the Seattle Seahawks, making 2 Super Bowls and winning both of them. I mean, winning one and discarding the other. That title win in 2013 was Carroll's best, cashing in a C-score of 38.481. His worst season was 2010 at negative 21.034, but even then the Seahawks made the playoffs and won a game. His total C-score gives us a double-digit jump from the previous entry at 159.098. At number 15, we have our second coach with neither a Super Bowl victory nor an appearance, yet our first coach to win 200 regular season games, winning exactly that many. Props to you if you figured this out already. This is Marty Schottenheimer. Marty took over as the interim head coach of the Cleveland Browns in 1984, but we're starting our counting from 1985. He was pretty darn good in Cleveland, but conflicts with owner Art Modell led to his departure. He spent the next decade with the Chiefs, where they consistently underachieved. He had a forgettable one-year stop with the Redskins. Then he spent 5 seasons with the Chargers, where they consistently underachieved. Marty was a good coach, he just got way too conservative in the playoffs. His 87 season with the Browns was just barely his best season, with a 26.858 C-score. His 2003 season in San Diego is his lowest at negative 18.307. He finished his career with a total C-score of 160.38. We're back at number 14 with our second of 5 active head coaches and also a Super Bowl winner. A former whiz kid, he is now 60 years old and the head coach of the Denver Broncos, Sean Payton. Of course, Payton is much more renowned for his 16 seasons as head coach of the New Orleans Saints. Taking over in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina's devastating impact on the city, Payton had the Saints in the NFC Championship game for the first time in franchise history in that very first season. 3 years later, as underdogs in Super Bowl 44 against the Indianapolis Colts, the Saints did what was once thought unimaginable. They were Super Bowl champions. That was in 2009, which ranks as Payton's best season with a 33.991 C-score. The nadir came in 2015 with a negative 14.664. Always within one win of at least a 500 season throughout his career, Payton's total C-score through 2023 sits at 165.359. While our number 13 entrant does not have a Super Bowl victory on his record, he does have an NFL championship and 4 total appearances in the Super Bowl. At the midway point of the countdown, we give you Bud Grant. Bud Grant retired from the Minnesota Vikings after the 1983 season, but they were so bad, they brought him back for one more season. He remained with the team after that as a consultant until his death in 2023. A quintessential Viking, he won the final NFL championship in 1969 before the AFL-NFL merger, only to lose the first of 4 Super Bowls. That 69 team was legendary though, and his best C-score at 43.178. His only negative double-digit C-score, and his worst, came in 1979 at 17.719. His total C-score is 171.976. While he never won a Super Bowl, he is still, to this day, the only person to ever play in both the NBA and the NFL, and he did win an NBA title with the 1950 Minneapolis Lakers, and he won 4 Grey Cups as a head coach in the CFL. We've referenced our number 12 entry to this point, but we've yet to say his name. He is the man who started the legendary coaching dynasty of the Pittsburgh Steelers when he became their head coach in 1969, Chuck Noll. But that 1969 season was tough. As hard as it is to believe now, the Steelers were probably the NFL's worst team since its inception in 1933. We'll go ahead and let you know that 1969 was Noll's worst season with a negative 35.557 C-score. It did take some time to turn it around, but once they did, the Steelers were a dynasty, winning the Super Bowl in back-to-back seasons, twice, all within a 6-year period. The 1975 season, ending with a victory over the Dallas Cowboys in Super Bowl X, ranks as Noll's best season in C-score at 39.755, but he had 4 total seasons with at least 33, leading to an overall C-score of 175.625. We've seen some excellent win percentages to this point, but at number 11 is our first coach to win more than 2/3 of his games. He was known for not being able to win the big one until he won the big one. This is Tony Dungy. Like so many on this list, Dungy took over a terrible franchise when he became head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 1996. In Season 2, they had a winning record, their first in a full season for 16 years. They became a powerhouse, but couldn't get over the hump with Dungy at the helm. He had it easier taking over the Colts in 2002, but they improved after he arrived, and the Colts won the Super Bowl in 2006. Yet that was only Dungy's 5th best season in Indy by C-score, with the best coming the next season in 2007 at 28.788. That first season in Tampa was his worst, a respectable negative 9.261 given the circumstances. Tony Dungy brings us to the edge of the top 10 with a career C-score of 180.32. At number 10, we have our third active head coach, and this one even made me scratch my head just a little. But 17 total seasons, only 4 of them losing seasons, and a Super Bowl title adds up. The top 10 starts with Mike McCarthy. He's been somewhat beleaguered, especially in his recent run with the Dallas Cowboys, that has been underwhelming despite some great regular season success. A similar story can be told from his time in Green Bay, but not an identical one, as the Packers did ascend to the top of the NFL mountain in 2010, winning Super Bowl 45. Very few will say that Mike McCarthy is a better head coach than a lot of the guys that we've already seen, but he certainly has accumulated a lot better. That 2010 season was his best with a C-score of 30.274. His first season in Dallas in 2020 was his worst with a negative 12.051. Double-digit C-scores in 10 seasons, with 5 of those being at least 20, gives McCarthy a career total of 185.745. Bill Walsh isn't the only coach on this list who only coached for 10 seasons. We have another one at number 9 whose coaching career, despite landing him in the Hall of Fame, is only his 3rd most well-known accomplishment amongst many modern fans: John Madden. A long commentary career and a video game that bears his name will keep John Madden immortal in the NFL realm. But before all that, he coached the Oakland Raiders for a decade and did so very successfully. He inherited a great team, no question, but he won more than 75% of his games for those 10 seasons, finally landing a Super Bowl title in 1976. And when he was done coaching, he was done. That 1976 season was less than 1/5 of a point behind 1969 as Madden's best season, 30.048 versus 29.864. But 76 was his best season in the NFL. His worst season was in 1970, and that still garnered a positive C-score at 3.182. His total C-score, again in just 10 seasons, was 187.515. Our number 8 entrant is our second head coach who took more than a decade away from the sideline. In this instance, it was the first run where the major success arrived, and it was major. We're here to take a look at Joe Gibbs. Over a 10-year period, while other NFC powerhouses were still very much in force, the Washington Redskins found themselves making 4 Super Bowl appearances under Joe Gibbs. 1982, 1987, and 1991 saw triumph in those Super Bowls, with only 1983 serving as a disappointment. 12 years after retiring, Gibbs returned to the sideline, and considering he did so under Daniel Snyder's ownership, he did fairly well. Gibbs' best season is the best season by any coach in this countdown. The legendary 1991 Redskins, who rank as the Super Bowl era's second best team with an overwhelming C-score of 51, -0.468. His second to last season in 2006 was his worst at -11.448. In all, Gibbs' C-score sits at 195.447. The number 7 spot in this countdown is our breakthrough into the 200 plus range of C-score, and it does so with a somewhat divisive figure. The question about this man is how responsible he truly is for his team's success. He was given a better hand than any coach, probably in NFL history, but he did the job, and I personally have great adoration for him. At number 7 is George Seifert. Seifert had, by any measure, the greatest rookie season as an NFL head coach with the San Francisco 49ers. 14-2, dominant playoff performance, Super Bowl champion. Yes, he inherited a Super Bowl championship winning team, but still, they were much better than even that team. And under Seifert, they kept winning and winning and winning. His 8-season stint ended with a 98-30 record, another Super Bowl title, and an astonishing 235 points of C-score, with that first season in 1989 leading the way at 44.167. His 3-year run in Carolina was okay until that dreadful last season, Seifert's worst by far, with a -25.387 C-score. In total, the superstitious Seifert gets lucky spot number 7, with a total C-score of 204.561. We've reached number 6, and if you can believe it, we still have room for a head coach who has been to a single Super Bowl, but never won one. He might not be the most familiar name to everyone, especially the younger set, but this spot belongs to George Allen. His journey from Bears defensive coordinator to the end of his tenure as Rams head coach is fascinating. It involves a lawsuit, a firing that didn't stick, and a firing that did stick. Later, he was fired by the Rams again. It's worth checking out, it's quite a fun story. On the field though, there's little to dispute this man's success. Just look at that record, 47 losses in 12 seasons, fewer than 4 per season. A 70+% winning percentage, a winning season every season. He just didn't win a Super Bowl, but when he got to one in 1972 with the Redskins, all he had to do was face an undefeated opponent. Allen's best season was 1967 with the Rams, landing a 32.538 C-score. His worst was his final season in 1977 at 0.316. He joins John Madden as the only 2 coaches on this list without a single negative C-score on his resume, totaling 207.726 for his career. We've entered the top 5, and we have our 4th active head coach. He replaced the Super Bowl champion in 2008 and became a Super Bowl champion himself. And he's still there. Baltimore Ravens head coach John Harbaugh. Even though Harbaugh has been with the Ravens for over 15 years, it feels like he's been flying under the radar. The consistency is there, only 2 losing seasons, with only one of those at double-digit losses, and only 3 negative C-scores. He does have a Super Bowl title in 2012, a game he won with his brother on the opposing sideline, but that is only his 10th best season by C-score, which means they've had lots of amazing seasons, but also means they've left a lot on the table. Harbaugh's best C-score came in an incredible 2019 season with 35.971, while his worst was the season after the Super Bowl win in 2013 at -7.726. If they could close better in the playoffs, this total C-score of 209.784 would be even higher. The top 4 is in a league of its own, and the jump in C-score between number 5 and number 4 is nearly 105 points. Here at number 4 is the last of our 5 active head coaches, and it's none other than Andy Reid. Reid joins Bill Parcells as the only coaches in this top 25 to have won a conference title in both the NFC and the AFC. In 13 seasons with the Eagles, they made it to the show once, but did not leave as champions. Now with the Kansas City Chiefs, they have played in 4 of the past 5 Super Bowls and have won 3 of them, including the last 2 back-to-back. He inherited terrible situations in both places and wasted little time turning them around. In Kansas City, he's had a double-digit C-score in every single season except for 1. He's a true mastermind and is by far the top active coach in the league. His first Super Bowl title in 2019 was his best, with a C-score of 28.547. His final season in Philly in 2012 was the worst at negative 22.139. He has a career C-score of 314.391 and rising. When an NFL franchise is born, they hope to hire a good head coach that can last for a while. When the Dallas Cowboys were born, they hired a head coach who lasted for 29 seasons. Our number 3 entry is the great Tom Landry. Once again, this single tenure is split into 2 here because we're discounting the pre-Super Bowl era of 1960 to 1965. But in Landry's case, that's a benefit because those particular Cowboys teams weren't all that good. Dallas achieved a winning record in 1966, and they had a winning record every season for 20 straight seasons. They won the NFC and went to the Super Bowl 5 times, winning twice. There's a reason the Dallas Cowboys rate out as the best franchise during the entire Super Bowl era. Landry's best season, incidentally, wasn't one of the Super Bowl wins or even one of the appearances, with a 34.186 in 1968. His only negative C-scores came in his final 2 seasons, with the last one in 1988 being the worst at negative 17.818. He leads Andy Reid by nearly 70 total points in C-score, with a stellar final total of 381.337. And just like that, we're done with C-scores in the 300s. At number 2, we have entered the 400 range, and this spot is reserved for the man who has won 328 regular season games, the most in NFL history, Don Shula. At just 33 years old, Shula was hired as head coach of the Baltimore Colts. His first 3 seasons there don't apply to this countdown, but those last 4 do, and boy were they magnificent. The Colts were NFL champions in 1968 with one of the greatest teams in NFL history, only to be upset in Super Bowl III, the first NFL team to lose to an AFL team. When the leagues merged in 1970, Shula took over the Miami Dolphins, where he stayed until 1995. He went to 5 additional Super Bowls in Miami, including back-to-back victories in 1972 and 1973, with 1972 famously ending in an undefeated season. Yet, it was that 68 Colts team that was his best, with a C-score of 49.372. 1989 with the Dolphins was his worst at negative 10.779. His career C-score ascends all the way to 407.642. There's probably not a whole lot of intrigue here at the number 1 spot. Could I trick you into thinking it's Rich Kotite? Okay, yeah, duh, it's Bill Belichick. The numbers are the numbers, they're right here to see. 19 of his 29 seasons resulted in double-digit C-scores. 12 were 20 or higher, 5 were 30 or higher, and 1 just missed hitting 50. Belichick has been wildly successful everywhere he has been. Yes, even in Cleveland. He inherited one of the worst teams in NFL history and had them in the playoffs 4 seasons later without the benefit of free agency or the salary cap. It's only when Art Modell announced the team was moving that things fell apart and Belichick was made the scapegoat. Their loss, New England's gain. No coach has affected every level of his team the way he has. He has made stars out of nobodies, and hundreds of NFL players owe their careers to him. He won 6 Super Bowls, but it's one that he lost in 2007 after an undefeated regular season that ranks as his best with a 49.893 C-score. His final season in 2023 was his worst at negative 20.791. That total C-score of 451.214 will be tough to beat, and he may yet come back to add to it. 17 of the 32 NFL teams had a head coach represent them on this list as their primary team, which was simply determined by the length of their tenure. The 49ers, Chiefs, Eagles, and Redskins had 2 different head coaches as their primary. 2 teams had 3 such coaches. Not surprising is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Somewhat surprising are the Seattle Seahawks, who only entered the league in 1976. 7 more teams got secondary representation, leaving 8 teams with none at all. Those were the Bears, Bengals, Cardinals, Falcons, Jaguars, Lions, Texans, and the Titans/Oilers. Of the 20 head coaches on this list who are inactive, 11 of them saw their worst season come in either their first or their last. That's probably not overly surprising. The 5 remaining coaches who are still active will certainly look to avoid that fate. Speaking of active coaches, there are a few knocking on the door of the top 25. The closest one, and the only one with a Super Bowl title, is Sean McVay. The next closest are Sean McDermott, the newly returned Jim Harbaugh, Kyle Shanahan, and Matt LaFleur. We might not be too far from having a father-son and a brother-brother combination in the top 25. Thank you so much for joining us for this one today. Thought it might be fun to put the spotlight on some head coaches. Hopefully you did too. Please do the YouTube thing. Give this video a like, share it around, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell to receive notifications on all future videos. So what you think? With only 25 head coaches, there are several who got left off. I imagine there will be some voices for Jimmy Johnson, Tom Flores, and Tom Coughlin, multiple Super Bowl winners. Probably some will speak for Marv Levy and Dan Reeves, multiple Super Bowl losers. Or maybe a Hall of Famer like Don Coryell. Maybe you've got someone else you thought should have been included. Certainly, you may believe that some of the guys on this list shouldn't have been ranked at all. Be sure to let me know your thoughts about this or anything else that might be on your mind down in the comments section below. Thank you once again for joining us, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.